Jay.
Hey, Natalie.
How are you doing this morning?
I was doing pretty good until you started making fun of my hair.
Oh my gosh. Everyone should now watch on YouTube because JJ's hair, well, it's it's hair.
I just want to make one disclaimer. I made a big mistake and I had my bangs cut after like 30 years. Bad idea. That's it. That's all my thing.
Bangs.
Don't do it, folks.
Don't do it. Bangs.
Caregiver, that's a tipsy advice.
Tipsy for today. Be careful with bangs.
So let's get
Sometimes,
focused. Yeah, go ahead.
oh, okay. So, because sometimes they're your friends, but sometimes they're not. But Jay, we're not here to talk about your bangs. Tell
That's
you
right.
right now. Um, hey, we have a pretty awesome guest today.
I know somebody showed up. I'm so excited.
I know. I do love it when they show up. Okay. So,
Okay.
Jay, really focus right now. So let's talk. Will you talk about Susanne? Because she's pretty awesome. And I really want our listeners to be able to learn a little bit more about her before we get to her confession.
That is right. But I don't think she goes by Suzanne. She actually just simply, we're going to call her Caregiver Warrior because that is what all of her social media, her books, her website, like that's what she is. She's a caregiver warrior. And I've already met her this morning. I totally go along with that. So let me tell you about, she actually is Susanne White, and she is the founder of Caregiver Warrior. She cared for her parents, a mother with dementia and a father who opted for open heart surgery at 87. So he lived as long as possible to care for his wife, Suzanne's mom. I love that. In the 4 years, she says, during that care, she was able to heal her relationships with both of them and was honored to help walk them home. I am so excited to have you
Oh
here,
my God.
Suzanne. We are excited to have you maybe help us be warriors because we struggle sometimes. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. We all struggle.
I
That's
know.
that's why we're warriors.
That's exactly
Exactly.
right.
We are definitely on the struggle bus. So, Suzanne, I know, gosh, you've got a long history of caregiving, even before I think your parents. I typically love to say, okay, let's just jump right in and start from the beginning. But really, the beginning is you were born and then kind of move up to where you got thrown into caregiving. I think your first bout of caregiving.
Well, my actual first bout of caregiving was my parents, although I was the caregiver in the family. I was that child. And a lot of my whole thing is about who we are as people and how we respond to the caregiving role from our
Hmm.
history, kind
Hmm.
of. But the first big call was my mom and dad. Um, my caregiving journey started with a phone call from my sister because she was in Florida, I was in New York, they were in Jersey, and we all flew down for the holidays. And they had to take my dad off an airplane. He was so exhausted
Mm.
from caring from my mom, you know.
Mm.
And they were hiding it from her. They were a team. He was a World War II vet,
Hmm.
um, bombardier hero pilot. Second
Hmm.
time they took him off the plane. First time he landed it after they would try to shoot him down. But they were working together as a team to sort of hide from us that my mom was like in early stages of dementia.
Wow. How old were they, if you don't mind me asking?
I don't. I have to go back in my mind a little. Like in their mid 80s.
That's wow. So in their mid 80s, living their best life in Jersey. They are, and I mean, that makes sense. I mean, your dad was in the military. I mean, if you think about that era of individuals back then, they were resilient. Like right now, we're a little weak. I mean, if you think about it,
No,
like,
absolutely, because they're all gone now. So many of them are gone or walking home now. I mean, they're a completely different generation in a lot of different ways, the way they handled things and passed things down on to us.
so are you the oldest between you and your sister?
And the oldest.
Mm,
Yes.
JJ. I knew JJ was going to be excited about that. I'm not going to lie to
I'm
you.
the big sis. And until I was 14, I was an only child.
Oh,
My
Oh,
sister was a surprise baby. My mom, now this is back in, let's say a couple decades ago. I won't like,
don't give your
um,
age away.
no, thank you. A couple decades ago, she at 42, she got pregnant.
Mm.
wow.
Yeah, they thought she was in menopause. So anyway, yeah.
Oh, God help me, JJ. That's my
Be
answer.
careful,
Oh
girl.
my God. I mean,
Be careful.
I know, because I didn't even think about that. I feel like, okay, guys, I'm going through menopause. We'll have a
Irish
different
Catholics.
podcast called Something Different.
Yeah.
And
Irish
so
Catholics, so
you
anyway,
can get pregnant if you
so she
are
got
sort.
pregnant. I remember them both walking in. Like my mom was like, and my dad was like, and I
What?
said, "We're pregnant." So yeah, so the little bundle of joy, my sister Michelle was born 14 years
Oh,
when I was 14.
so you've been living life, you and your sister doing normal family stuff. And so so you really didn't hit caregiving until then later in life. How about give or take how old? 40s, 50s, not I say that
I
respectfully.
was not my youngest self, and I was
Okay.
kind of and thank God, I think now I look back, I was kind of in my, prime. I was
Yes.
working full time. I was in New York running around, and I ended up being a working full time caregiver for both of them. Yeah, so I was just and look, and here's the thing: I think that a lot of caregivers we do. I mean, we not that we're in denial, but we sort of they're, oh yeah, my parents are getting out, older,
Right.
they have basic stuff going on. And we're okay. And it's not that you're not thinking about it, but it's, to get that phone call or to get that to be hit with that realization. And then, there wasn't there's no question. Like I think caregivers are born caregivers. I
Yeah.
think we're like hardwires, the one of us who do it. And it's like you don't think about it. There's no like to do like a pro and con list of one. Well, I won't caregiver. I will. It's just like okay, you need me. What do you need?
Yeah.
And therein
Mm.
I think lies a lot of stuff that we can talk about.
Yeah.
Because
Mm.
of course we're going to do it. Of course we're going to be committed. Of course we're going to try to do it perfectly. Because that's what we do as caregiver warriors. We just do it.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting though? You see, I totally interrupted Jay. Sorry about that.
Now I
You
have,
just said, of course, but here, I'm going to hold my thought because I can actually remember it for a second. Jay, go.
why? I do have a short question, Natalie.
That's
So
okay.
just out of when the episode happened, like when you really jumped into it, proximity wise, how close were you to your parents and your sister? Like, are you guys close to them? Are you living close to them?
Geographically, right?
Mhm.
So they were in South Jersey, which was about 90-minute drive,
Okay.
90-mile drive. That was about
Mhm.
an hour and a half from New York.
Okay. All right.
Mm.
And
And
your
my
sister as
sister
well?
and my sister was in Florida, so
Oh,
so big
far.
sister and closer to them. That was it.
Okay. Okay.
I'm it.
Okay.
Mm. And you said, I like how you said, of course we're going to do this. And of course we're going to do that. And I think some of our listeners would be like, There's a lot of people that are not, of course. They look at it and it's like this finger. Like they're like, are you going to do that? Or I can't do that, or I won't do that. Or like for you guys, it sounds like it was, of course. Was it, of course, for your sister too, if you don't mind me asking?
And I don't mind. And she was great about the whole thing. Yes. And when I say that, like that's what I'm saying. I think like innate core, like caregivers, like those of us who sign up like that, we're
Mm-hmm.
born that. And yes, there are people for a lot of extremely appropriate reasons and inappropriate reasons that can't show up
Right.
or won't show up
Yeah.
or really struggle to show up. And I wasn't one of them. I'm one of the army that's like, yeah, there's no question, there's no cons to this, and I don't have a choice really because that's my personality.
Yeah.
Mm, that's true. I
That's
like that. No, I
that's the
agree
kind.
with that. So your parents, so this got us. We got caught with our parents, but that's because our parents kind of pushed us, kept us at an arm's length distance when it came to planning. Our parents, we've talked about this before, they did not plan for caregiving, even though our mom was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And so, and my mom for many years tried to hide it as much as possible. And that's not a bad thing, but she didn't want that. She didn't want, if you think about it, when you're known and you have an identity and you're known for certain things, and then all of a sudden you get sick, all people think of you as is the illness. They don't see you anymore. They see, oh, there's a Parkinson's, or my husband has, oh, he had cancer. Like that doesn't define us. So when you guys were, um, as your parents were aging and you and your sister, you're engaging, did you all sit down as a family and have discussions around we're getting older. Here's our will, here's our POA, here's our medical. This is what we want. We're all on the same page.
So just to answer the question, I'm going to give you the dynamic.
Okay, I'm
All
ready.
right. So my mom was like 4'11", like this little Irish
She's
Catholic
vertically
dynamo.
challenged.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, well, it was like she was a powerhouse and we didn't get along. So
Mm,
she was very controlling and now looking back, I see how well she managed it all.
hmm
She took care of the wills, she took care of the finances, she took care of the health insurance, set them up actually really well. So I had to stay at arm's length. However, I am her. I have had to admit that I'm like I've taken, yeah, okay. And so I started getting a little nervous. So I did step in at one point, and got powers of attorney. I became the power of attorney for them.
hmm
And that was extremely anxiety producing for me. But I did get them to do it with my dad's help. But that was the piece. That was the piece that was missing that she hadn't done because she didn't want to relinquish control to anybody.
Control is such a big thing if you really think about it, because I think a POA is your first. There are all these like these little trigger things that make you think of death and dying. Like I'm giving up my independence. And so if I do a POA, um, I'm giving up a piece of myself. I just basically let JJ control everything I do.
That's true. And for me, I guess I think about POAs, and for anybody listening, it isn't. My husband, we have POAs now, when we travel. It just it's not truly that. They can be limited. So
Yes, and I want to add something to this because I
Yeah.
think it's really an important piece. So I had financial power of attorney.
yeah.
I didn't so I didn't have healthcare power of attorney.
Oh,
Medical. You didn't have medical.
I
oh,
did not have medical. Okay. And I learned a very important lesson, which I
Mm,
talk about.
okay.
So when my mom and dad died within 7 weeks of each other,
hmm
which was a little intense. So my mom passed out at the luncheon for my dad. I didn't want to go anywhere. Anyway, to make a long story short, we had to call 911 to have her taken to the hospital the next day. And I had a snarky EMS guy,
hmm
and my mom appeared lucid. And he said, where's your medical power of attorney? I said, oh, here it is. He says, that's not it. I said, what are you talking about? And he says, she's telling me she's fine. I'm not taking her. So thank God the universe helped me out. And between her best friend and us cajoling her, we got her to say, hey, we're just going to check you out. I'll bring you home this afternoon. Fine. And the other EMS, the female EMS paramedic said, you know what? That's it. I got a yes from her. I'm taking her. But that could have been really bad, like
hmm
really bad, because my mom died 7 weeks later.
Wow.
And we found out she had, stuff going on internally. So note to self, of all the stuff you need to get together, and you think you got it covered, talk to other people, talk to other professionals, get other opinions, cover your stuff.
yeah.
hmm
And if you think you're covered, assume you're not and go talk to somebody else, another professional, and make sure it's all lined up.
That's where I think an elder care attorney really helps with doing this, because there's an attorney who does your will, but there are elder care attorneys that help you and remind you or tell you about the things that you don't know to ask. Like you don't know what you don't know. And so I think that's really important to be able to have access and do that ahead or in advance of doing that. Oh, that's interesting. That's
And there
really
are, and there's, and if sometimes we can't afford elder attorneys, and they're the best. So, there's free resources,
ooh,
like,
free resource.
there's free resources, the Department of Aging, your local community, your state, your city, the library. I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. This is not my wheelhouse, but really,
Yeah.
other than the mistakes I made.
Oh, yeah.
We're really expert at mistakes.
Exactly right.
I think we all can say that.
Exactly.
Like, whoa, I wish I'd done something different on that
Oh
day.
my God.
I think another resource I'm going to throw in here is your local area on aging, local agency on aging. They're typically called AAAs. And so they're in various parts, they're in all states, but these folks really help sometimes. So here's a little tipsy. Sometimes AAA's, area agency on aging, they go by different names but it is aging. And so I think when you are looking and doing some research, they are a fantastic resource. And then, of course, you can look up and use some of our favorites are findhelp.org. And you could look on 211. I'm a big fan of findhelp.org. So there's your tipsy. There's one of your tipsies. Hey, Jay, I need to take a break for just a second. We'll be right back. I don't know about you, but my inbox is always cluttered with useless emails. But there's one I always open, the Confessions of a Reluctant Caregiver newsletter. You may say, Natalie, what makes yours so special? Well, I'm biased, but don't just take my word for it. Here's what our subscribers say they love. First, it comes once per month, and you can read it in under 5 minutes. Next, you'll find amazing tips and resources to use in your everyday life. And who doesn't love a recommendation? These sisters do, which is why we share sister approved products and discount links to save you time and money. And of course, you're first to know about the upcoming month's confessions. Just like our show, you're guaranteed to relate, be inspired, leave with helpful tips and resources, and of course, laugh. Go to our website, confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com, to sign up for our newsletter today.
Hey, Nat, we're
Hey,
back.
Jay.
So
Gosh, I
let's
love
keep
that.
going.
Let's keep going. Okay.
Interrupting
You go.
cat. We were so excited to be back. So Suzanne, we talk about things that you wish you had known. I mean, we talk about all the resources, like other resources things that you wish you had known at that time, because you said your dad passed away prior. He passed away 7 weeks prior. Like, what else were things that you found out during that time that you wish you had known?
For me personally, a lot of it was my reaction to the entire situation.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's which is kind of my wheelhouse, is the emotional state that we're in. And being a type A perfectionist, I came at it pretty heavy. I was a kind of a helicopter caregiver. And if people that don't understand that, you're sort of hovering around all the time, and not giving people time to adapt and yourself to adapt. I had to be a control freak and perfectionist around everything. And I still am. I work on it all the time. So I think the things that were powerfully hit me so powerfully was who I was going into it as a caregiver warrior, and how my expectations of myself hurt me as a caregiver. Because my new topic I'm working on right now is shame. But it's the power of the intensity and the overwhelming circumstance you're in brings out who you are, right? And I had to work on me. So I think I went into it thinking I was going to do it alone, I was going to do it perfectly, and I was going to do it immediately.
I guess that when you said shame, I guess that for me is my big question, knowing what you do. Same thing for me. I started out and thought this is going to be great and I'll do it better, going home and thinking it's going to be a great day and I'm going to take mom out to eat. And then she doesn't want to go out. And I think I'm going to be the best. I look at my life now and I think a lot of mine, even now, there's a lot of grieving involved in it as well. Do you think when it started, do you feel like people grieve and they don't know? The person hasn't passed away. Is that something that you see, that you feel like people are encountering and don't recognize?
Absolutely. Pre-grief. It's pre-grief. I think pre-grief and fear, I think there's a river of fear that you're constant, because you know where you're going. You're walking someone home a lot of the times, right? Eventually, you're walking them home. And I think there's fear that we carry with us underneath everything. And then I think, yes, I think we grieve so many things. I think we grieve our old normal, like our old life, which we're allowed to grieve. I think we're grieving the people that, and you were saying it earlier, that the people that are all of a sudden kind of going through their lives and all of a sudden, or not all of a sudden, but or slowly, they're losing who they used to be or want to be.
Hmm.
I think there's grief about that. And I think there's grief about losing your handle on life in general. I finally began to realize like I don't have to accept my circumstances. I
Hmm.
have to accept my reaction to my circumstances, right? Like all this stuff that came up for me that oh, I'm not allowed. I shouldn't be feeling that, like compounding my emotions. Like I was afraid to be afraid. I was angry that I was angry.
Mm.
I'm angry at myself that I was angry, right? I was guilty that I felt guilty, you know? So I think this is big soup of grief. Um,
I think that's a good way to put it. A big soup of grief. And you're right. You're right about the angry. Like, why do I feel angry? Why am I felt that way with Jason, like, and he has it harder than me, but I'm also going through all these thoughts and feelings, and I feel guilty because I'm I should be grateful that and this is, and I hadn't even thought about this. I should be grateful to have the opportunity to help him, or I should be grateful I'm not sick. I should be grateful, and I'm not grateful. I'm pissed. I am I am frustrated. I am tired. I am not doing great. I am failing in many areas, and I'm also a perfectionist. I'm a recovering perfectionist because and I'm not recovering well. I'm like, I'm trying not to be a perfectionist in every aspect of my life. And so the first step is to acknowledge it. Like, I am a perfectionist. I will not do this well. And I think that's important, Suzanne. I don't know about you, but I when you acknowledge this is messy and I
yeah,
can live in the messiness.
yes, and I think that's one of my main things that I love to concentrate on is acknowledgement. Because
Mhm.
just back to the anger thing, anger's it's a normal reaction to something. It's an emotion that every single person has in life, and especially in caregiving. There's a rage around what's happening. We don't, this is not pretty. It's not fun. It's painful, and there's anger around it, and we all feel it. And to beat ourselves up about it,
Yeah.
it festers. It's not good. And we have to acknowledge, like like I had to really, I have this thing where it's called HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, tired,
Hmm.
like take your emotional temperature. And am I, if I'm like, what's my body? Like, if I'm angry and tense, I'm not a fun caregiver.
No, no. And it's just making the experience worse. Let me ask you this. I asked another guest if they felt like, did you find a silver lining? And they were like, there's been no silver lining. Like and I'm like, okay. And you know what? That's that reality for that person. I tried for me, I had to, if I didn't intentionally like actively seek opportunities to find some positive element of this. Like, well, I never thought I'd live in New York for a period of time. Okay. Um, you know what I mean? Is there when you talk about self-care, because I know you've got your book, um, and are you advising to seek out that as part of self-care?
I'm advising us to do whatever we have to do and whatever works for us
Mhm.
to feel like we deserve to feel okay,
Mm,
right? Because and I understand how difficult it is to find a silver lining. And I think a lot of times when people say, oh, do self-care, and I mean, I think you want to smack them kind of, because
Oh, yeah.
it's right, because it's really difficult. So my take basically is I have to feel like I deserve it. That's the first thing.
Mm.
That part of this plan, and I do believe it's a plan. I don't always, I have faith. I lose hope sometimes, but I always have faith. I do believe there's a plan, and I think the plan is that it's self-reflection and to understand what's going on for us. And for me, I the silver lining for me was I healed my relationship with my mom, but I saw that happening
Hmm.
as it happened, but it was because I changed. That was the silver lining for me, because I was doing things and acting ways and had old history and old behavior that wasn't serving me, not only in caregiving, but in general. And because of the intensity of my caregiving journey, because I had to try to get along with my mom, I had to understand her, had to understand him, I had to understand me, because I was freaking out in the beginning. I mean, I was miserable. And I know, because that's who I was personally, and we're all different. I knew that had to change. They weren't going to change. I had to. So for me, I had to change how I was looking at it. And believe me, 97% of the time, it was a nightmare. Now, I mean, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, it's messy and it's hard and it's frightening and it's frustrating. But the other 3%, it was like, wow, I just saw myself do something that I've done all my life. And I finally saw that didn't work. Let's
Mm.
try a softer tone here. I learned so much and I was able to see it work. Now that's who I am. I'm obviously there's other people who have other things, but I deserve to see its silver lining.
Yeah.
So I have I need advice. So that word, I think, deserve is hard. And that's just not about caregiving. That is in so many ways for a lot of people, Suzanne. Is there a tip or is there something that you see that would help people that say, do I really deserve this? I'm in this terrible situation. How can I say to myself, I do deserve happiness, or I do deserve to accept that it's okay to be angry, or as Natalie would say, it's okay to be pissed off about this. I deserve to have that feeling. How do you get to that deserve okay?
And this is probably the most loaded question I've ever been asked, because it's a really big conversation,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Because it right, because it's not, I mean, it's not like, you plug it in and recharge your cell phone. It's like not a boom. It takes work.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of work just in general to understand, especially if we come from family history where we weren't taught that. Do you know what I mean? And
Mhm.
my mom, when I tell you my mother and I did not get along, I'm telling you, we are so much, and I used to think we were so different. Exactly the same. So we banged heads all my life. And she had great expectations because she had probably an anxiety situation that she didn't have diagnosed, whatever. So I had to really learn that I deserved that the criticism, and that she was so tough on me because she was afraid for me, took a lot of self-reflection, which we don't necessarily have time to do
Yeah.
when we're caregiving, okay? But I urge everyone to do whatever they do for them, to understand that we have something divine inside that deserves, like, whatever you believe in, I personally believe there's something divine inside. And if I can ever get to that, whether meditation or spinning or whatever you do to have that moment of feeling like, wow, that 2 second minute, believe that that can exist for you. And that's what we try, that it's not about me. It's about a higher thing, that we have to realize that we're not here to suffer. I don't believe, and that we deserve to be treated really nicely. And I would never say the things to someone else that I'm saying in my head. That's probably the first thing. Listen to what you're saying to yourself about you and about your caregiving. The second guessing. the criticism, beating yourself up. Oh my God, I beat myself up. No one told me to do that. I didn't sign up for that. So the more I became aware of what I was saying in here, that I wouldn't say it to my best friend, the more I realized, wow, I'm so hard on myself. That's where my perfectionism comes from, my controlling. I'm a really good person. I'm trying to take care of people I love to the best of my ability. I deserve to feel okay about this.
Mm. I totally agree with that. Jay, we're going to take one more break and we'll be right back. Hey, ladies, I need to interrupt for just a second to share about the Sisterhood membership. It's basically a sale every day. And the best part, it's free. Here's the details. We're partnering with our friends at Benefit Hub and other care partners to save you money. With over 200,000 participating companies across the US and abroad, you'll find discounts at your favorite local stores, huge savings on vacations, amazing deals on home, auto, and supplemental insurances, and everything in between. Go to confessionsofareluctantcaregiver.com to sign up, and then definitely tell your friends about it. They can join too. Trust me, there's a discount for everyone. And don't forget, it's free. Okay, back to confessing.
Hey, everybody, we are back from that break. Let's get going back into this good stuff that we're talking about.
Okay, so I want to let's transition into tell me about how caregiving impacted your relationship. We've talked about a little bit about your mom and dad, and we'll get a little bit further back into that. But I want to talk about you and your sister. Like you get the call, because we didn't really kind of go through your story, but you get the call and you immediately do what? You know what I mean?
Well, I said, well, we were all supposedly we were going to be together for the holidays, so we flew our parents down to my sister's house in Florida, and that's when we had to take my dad off the plane. So she threw him to urgent care. He had walking pneumonia. He had some heart issues that were getting worse. So I flew down and kind of assessed the situation, talked to my sister, and I said to my dad, "Do you need help?" And he said, "Yes."
Mm.
You need help with mommy? Oh, yeah, Soupy, I need help. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, but you got it. So that's how having no idea what that meant or what that entailed, I just said, yes, let's do it. And right then and there, I just started trying to get his medical records from the Florida into New Jersey. That was my first case to help how crazy the healthcare system was. And I just said, whatever you need, mom and dad, I'll figure it out. I'll come down a weekend, whatever. So it just sort of naturally progressed. My sister, like I said, I was the eldest, and geographically, I was the closest. So I said, babe, I got this. And we're very close. We're really close. And she said, okay, well, I'll do whatever you want me to do. And she was and just supported me. Like she never once said to me, and that's kind of her personality, but never once said to me, oh, I don't think you should do that. Like that was never. So I was really blessed. I know a lot of people have siblings that give them grief, whether for whatever reason, whether they're guilty that they're not there, whatever. I was really lucky. So my sister never questioned anything, completely supported me. However, she felt really bad that she wasn't there all the time to this day, right? And she kept saying, "Offline." I said, "Look, there's going to be a day when I'm going to call you, and I'm going to ask you to drop everything in your life and fly in and help me. I'm telling you, it's going to happen." All right, I said, "And you're going to do it," and that's exactly what happened. I had to make a phone call at one point and say, "Okay, got it. I need you here in 2.5 hours." Bam, she was there, and really helped me at end of life. I mean, it was just amazing. But to this day, I know she feels like I did everything and she kind of was in the background. And I have a completely different perception about it. If she hadn't been as supportive and listened to me and took my phone calls, I would have never done it. Because in the back of my mind, I knew she was completely accepting everything I was doing and the support was there. And that was so invaluable. So, with siblings and other family members, there's different roles and they're not always clean cut. I'm taking somebody to the bathroom and showering them. You know what I mean? There's emotional and spiritual help and support that families give. So I was lucky.
She sounds like a great middle sister if there was a baby. She sounds like how awesome I am, Jay. You're welcome for that.
Oh,
I love
shaking my
you.
head. Do you see
I
that? I
love
wish you were watching.
you.
I know.
I know. So okay, so let me ask you this. Did you move in with your parents? Or so you did, but you did take the lead, and did you start because your mom, you said she had memory issues. You said that I believe it was onset of dementia. And so she started having issues. And so when your dad got sick, because they'd been hiding it. Sounds like my parents. Our parents hide
Mm-hmm.
things. What's that
Yeah,
about?
I know.
And you know what it is? We don't want you guys to worry.
Ah,
And you're like, please let me worry.
yeah.
Please. Like, no,
Were
for
you
real.
still working during all this time as well? Yeah. Oh, I like that.
Okay,
She's shaking her head.
how much time would you say that you spent providing caregiver duties? Not, like, because I've been talking with someone about this. There's this moment that we transition to daughter and caregiver. And at some point, it leans more into caregiver than even daughter, right? And it's tasks or it's actions or, you know what I mean? So, how much time do you think that you spent doing that? Get big guess on average each week.
Yes, and I'm just thinking because once you do it, you're doing it 24/7 because it just never goes
Exactly.
away. But it was I 50/50 and then maybe 75/25. It
Mhm.
was a balance act for me. So I was doing as much as I possibly could during the day in at my full-time job. And then I had like, long weekends with my parents. So I was basically 24/7. So there was 7 days a week. So I would work all week, jump in the car either Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, go down to my parents, and then go back to work on Monday. So I did that for almost 4.5 years.
Isn't that interesting that because there's studies that people say, and of course, individuals who are caregivers for Alzheimer's and dementia typically average, they say 44 hours a week that they provide caregiving. And my answer is that's cute. Have you ever heard of on call? On call means 24/7. And I think that's something that people don't realize is that even if you're not physically there, it is running in the background of your mind. And that's where I think employers and a lot of folks who are wanting to bring awareness and education about the needs of caregivers are trying to explain to businesses like you need caregiver benefits because of presenteeism. Like at any moment, JJ can text me and say, we've got an issue with mom, and I'm looking at it. And that doesn't just leave my head. It is sitting in the background of the operating machine thinking, how am I going to support mom? But even more, because JJ takes the lead, how am I going to support JJ? Because I am your sister in that, because JJ is the lead on all things. And then I just say, when do you want to release the Kraken?
Yeah.
Because I am the Kraken.
Is the Kraken. And that's so funny when you talk about your sister, which you know what, we need to get like a Kleenex package that says confessions because I've so many times I'm like tearing up with things that you say. But when you talk about your sister and about how she's the support, like I think about how many, it was just the other day when I called Natalie and we say I'm the snot sandwich because it happens. Like I'll call and she's like, okay, what's wrong? And I'm like, oh, mother of God, you are about to get it. And then it's just this explosion because you expect to be perfect all the time and you can't get emotional. And I cracked because my mom has a broken tooth and they got a referral in December and they dropped the ball. That's what the director of nursing
Oh,
said. And
sorry.
I'm just like, and I cracked. Now it was like, okay, well, we're probably going to need to breathe through this and it's okay, but you do. But that support person is such a key person. And so when I hear you say that, I'm like, that if you're not that person that is the boots on the ground person, to have someone and for them to accept, if you just support the person, that's all we want. It's just somebody say, you're doing a great job. That doesn't feel like they
That
make it feel like
sucks.
it.
That
That is, they
sucks.
can say
Do you want me to go
that's
cut
tough.
them for you? Because I'll
That's
do it. I
yes.
say ridiculous things like, hey, you want me to go find a rock and throw it on them? How big it is? I'm going to get it right now. My husband does that for me when I get mad. And he'll
Yeah.
be like, I'm going to go get a rock. And I'm like, he goes, how big do you want it to be? And I'm like, big. And he goes, big enough to kill them or big enough just to maim them? And I'm like, maim.
What I
Yeah,
said
see,
to Natalie,
yeah,
I said
and
to
and
Natalie,
that's and that's the see, and here's the amazing thing is we need a witness
Mhm.
to
Well,
so much of this I deserve, and then all of this, because we're in, it's like being in a really bad neighborhood alone. We need a witness. It's very simple. Even if you just say, I'm so sorry to me with conviction, you know what I mean? I just need a witness for somebody to say, oh my God, that sucks.
exactly.
It's
You know what I mean?
validation.
Because there's a part of us that is still saying, I'm failing here.
That's
Yeah,
right.
it is.
What is that? And that's where the shame comes.
It's
Mm.
shame and guilt. Let me throw that guilt word in there. I
Shame,
have just
Shame,
guilt.
totally
shame, and
failed.
guilt. Here's a great thing I just heard. Should have already mastered everything. Shame,
Oh my.
I like that. I'm writing that down.
right?
Should
And you
have mastered
already mastered everything.
already.
No.
Gosh, that is
Life
so
is,
good.
you know what I mean? So that's why it's so wonderful when you can get that voice on the phone that gets angry for you.
Mm.
She does.
I will cut somebody for Jay.
See?
Yeah.
So, and that's validating, that's witnessing that this thing happened that is so horrific, and I'm so tired anyway, and that this thing happened that I can't handle. Why? Because it's not handleable. It's, it, it's not me. It's that the situation really sucks.
Yeah.
And it's just that validation and witness.
Mm.
It, it's so important.
That is so true. It's we're at that point, Jay,
No, like
where
we
I'm
can't
like,
stop. I'm like, wait a minute, we need like a session of learning. Like,
I'm like, we're going to church here. Okay, so it's time. I'm going to tell you, it's time for sister questions, and I love sister questions. I feel like Susanne is clearly our sister. And okay, wait, tell me your younger sister's name.
Michelle.
Okay, Michelle is also our sister.
true.
I feel like Michelle should have been on here, but that's okay. Then we'll have another session with Michelle. I know Suzanne's like, let's have a sister session. We love sister sessions. Okay, so Jay,
Yes.
what's your sister question?
Okay, so first of all, I have to say that Suzanne has a book out. I'm going to get it actually right now.
Oh, are you going to
That
get it?
is a practical guide to caring for you while you care for your loved one. It said guide, so I'm hoping it has like coloring opportunities, and it is connect the dots, Suzanne, because I need that. But here's my question. It's not a funny question, Nellie. It actually
Oh
is.
no.
So I'm sorry.
It's okay.
You are in, so care never ends, but you are in the aftercare place.
Ooh, good question.
So you're there where you're like, okay, it has physically somewhat ended. So now you're in that physical portion where, hey, I got to take care of myself. There are a lot of people that we talk to that have gotten there and don't know how to move on. One thing that you would share with someone that is at that place where they are after care, what would you say to them? What's the best advice you could give with them when they're trying to move on?
Give yourself time to heal.
Mm.
Patience with the aftermath healing process. It's grief. It's grief at its ultimate work. And so many people will say, well, it's over, right? So you're back to your life now, right? No,
Yeah.
no, no. My life is there, and to try to go back to an old normal baseline isn't working. There's no time limit. Take the time you need to heal, period.
I think it also, whether the person passes or the person doesn't. I think that you will experience grief. I think you're exactly right. I remember when our dad died, our mom just grieved and grieved, and then all of a sudden it felt like it was gone. But then would have bouts of grief, and so I think that's the thing is that's normal to have intermittent, like I'm going to have good days, I'm going to have bad days. So here's a different question. I'm going to ask you, I'll have another sister question, but I want a follow-up question. So we can't, somebody said, we can't go back to normal the way it was before. Like once you've gone through this, you can't go back, and time doesn't even allow us to. The question is, would you, Susanne, want to go back to the way it was before you started caregiving?
Absolutely not. No, 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 no. I'm a better me.
I love that. I'm a better me.
Wow.
I think it's what do I need to work on? Because I saw that for myself, Susanne. I saw myself in all of the things. You and I are so much alike. And I always talk about that Jason's cancer healed me because it really helped me reprioritize. It helped me see myself. It's so easy to slip back into old habits. I'm going to tell you right now, there are days that I work way too long and don't spend enough time with Jason. But I hope that I am learning and continuing to grow from it because I think care will come again. We'll be called to action again. And whether it's a couple hours, it's full time, um, I think at some point we're always going to be called to action. And I think we're better prepared for it. Would you agree?
I would agree completely. And I think that that's the power of example I can give because everyone's situation is different. But, all the therapy, I'm sober 38 years, all the recovery, all this stuff, nothing got me in touch with who I was and helped to heal me because I'm still working on it. I'm a work in progress as taking care of my parents. I mean,
Mm.
it was like recovery and understanding and self awareness on steroids.
Well,
And I
and
think,
selflessness.
yeah, I mean, it was the greatest gift I could ever have. I mean, I literally healed a lifetime of misery with my mom. Like when she passed, I stood at her gravesite and I was like, we're good. Think about that. Hence,
Well, and I'll tell you this, I think I hope that folks have that opportunity. I think that I know we've talked to some folks that it didn't give you that opportunity to necessarily heal with that individual. But I think what it does is it allows you to heal and forgive yourself. And I think that's where the real that's the real purpose of everything is, can I heal myself?
Yeah.
I have one last question because then we have to move along. But we'll have you back. What is your favorite guilty pleasure? What is the thing that you do just for you that you would do it, like just for you?
I haven't done it in a long time, so I'm thinking about doing it again. Horses.
Really?
I mean,
I had a
petting
horse,
them, riding them, owning them.
riding him, not so much now. I don't know if I would ride him anymore because it's really dangerous. But I had a horse that I rode every Sunday. I took an hour out of my Sunday when I was taking care of my parents, and I found a barn and a horse and friends. One of my best friends now was from that experience, and I would ride this horse. We'd walk around with these ladies, and I ended up calling them caregiver cowgirls because every single one of them ended up being caregivers. Yeah, it was like weird.
Oh,
Yeah, and so yeah, and Scooby, he was amazing. And when my dad passed, I went to go get him out of the pasture, and he just laid, and he was really big, and he just laid head on me, and I was like, "What are you doing?"
He knew.
Like for like a minute and a half, and I was like, "Okay." Picked his head up and said, "Okay, let's go." He knew. So, yeah, for me that, and I did that for myself as a caregiver. So that was
Mm.
so I still have that, the smell of horse poop.
People can't see you going, I love it. I will say this, our friends at Healing Strides would say there's a reason that therapeutic riding is so appropriate. And it's funny because therapeutic, you're not actually riding. You're not actually in therapeutic riding from a clinical standpoint, you actually are you're with, and that horse can absolutely sense. So, okay, I'm gonna leave us there. But guys, Susanne, thank you so much for blessing us today with so many wisdom. Like we've got like 400 like videos we could do like on words of wisdom that you could give. And we love your sister, Michelle. We love you, your sister. And guys, until we confess again, thanks so much for being with us.
Bye-bye.
All right. Love that. Fantastic.
Yoo-hoo!
Love that.
What fun. You guys are good.
I'm sorry about the dogs. This
Oh
is
no,
not
she
my
was
normal
fine. She
area.
wasn't
I'm like, I
she was
can't,
fine.
everything's echoing. Gabby's running. I kept going to mute because she was attacking someone on the steps.
Told you she's a
That's
terrorist.
perfect. That's
I was
perfect.
like, what's going on? This is my life. Just have
Um,
mom calling in a minute. You know, I'm just waiting for the phone because she has someone, they sold her an iPhone and she sends me her location all the time. So
yeah.
Susan, I want to tell you something because this is really important. You were supposed to be here today because I just have had a really bad week. And for you to say there is something divine inside, like Natalie knows I keep getting, but your wisdom is just unbelievable. Like, and I know you've worked your way through it. We're all in the middle of it, but it's just amazing. Like, I know you, I mean, how long have your parents have they passed? When did your,
It's like it's like just bear with it's like almost it's be 14 years now.
yeah.
Mm.
You're making me cry now. So, I I just want to tell you something because I don't know why I'm telling you this, but whatever. My dad, my dad went right before he passed. He probably had a heart attack. I had left and he wouldn't go to the emergency room. Anyway, make a long story short, he ended up in rehab, right? So um my sister was there. So it was
Yeah.
so we were good. So um he I went to see him the day before he passed and I said to him, and I know. So it was when he was in the hospital before rehab, I said to him, "Hey, Pop, like if you're tired, I get it because you've been like really amazing, and I'll take care of Mom." And he put his hand out to me for me to shake it, like as a deal, right? Okay. So I was like, "Oh shit." So I said, "Oh boy." So anyway, so
That's
he was
exactly
in
right.
so
Like
he was in
that's a nonverbal contract.
yeah, oh yeah. So he was in rehab and he was sort of sitting there and I said, "Oh Dad, you okay?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm doing great, Soupy." He said, "I got one, I'm at peace with God." He said, and he always would say, "This is a really good bad thing." He said, "This is spectacular." He said, "I'm at peace with God." He said, "I'm okay." And I thought, well, he's kind of got another foot, like that was kind of weirded me out. That night when I left, and my sister will correct me, but it was that night or the next night, he said to my sister, "I'm thinking about checking out." And she was like, anyway, so she said, "Well, I did say to him, like after, like, okay, Dad, if and he died the next morning with a smile on his face in bed. Okay. So, and the nurse called me and said, "Suzanne, I'm telling you, I'm not giving you a bunch of baloney. I'm telling you, there was no trauma." He was smiling when I got him this morning. He died on July 7th, 7/7 at like around 7 a.m. Okay. That was his number. And I still feel guilty about should I have gotten him, did we have the right drugs? Because he ended up with sepsis. Was it the wrong drugs? Should I have moved him faster? Should I listen to, I mean, there was just all this stuff. And at one point I said to myself, that was his plan.
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at all the signs you're getting. Like, that was his plan. And that gives me a sort of a sense of peace. Do you know what I mean? Because this is their plan, as crappy and crazy, and this is the plan, and we are showing up for it. You're showing up for it, like you. I mean, it's almost insurmountable, but we're walking them home. There's no greater gift. Let's talk about divinity. So don't forget that, you're an angel here. This is a sacred room we're in right now. This is church.
Yeah.
having these conversations, right?
I
I mean,
believe that totally.
so
Oh, and I know Jay's, we've had such a hard time because then it's hard because I want to go and be released as the Kraken because I feel like the facility is not doing what it needs to do
Yeah.
by regulation. And however, we walk this fine line of if I go and I can say it nicely. If I go and bring up, we're calling the ombudsman, we're going to talk with your licensing regulator, we're going to call the net, we're going to make phone calls. Our mom, the she won't be there because there'll be a reason that they can no longer meet her needs because you can get rid of people if you can't medically meet their needs, and you can't argue that. Like you as a consumer can't argue, well, if a facility says they can't meet their needs, they can't meet their needs and they have to be transferred somewhere else. And even though you might think that's BS, it's because you're not meeting their needs, not their needs are so insurmountable, you didn't do your job. If you had done your job, her needs would be met. And so this is the most frustrating thing. And the fact that it's taken months to get her, and maybe today will be the day that she has an appointment. And people may say, well, why don't you just call yourself? It's not that easy. It doesn't work that way. You have to play this game. And that's emotionally and mentally exhausting.
well, it's injustice. I think it's injustice because they have you. Like you can't, and and if you do something and you scream too much, like they could treat her badly. Like,
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I mean, that's what they hold over you. And I think it's the injustice of it and the helplessness. And I think for me, injustice and helplessness are my oh my God, they're my nemesis. I mean, they're my two
Yeah.
things that will put me into an anxiety panic attack that I can't even begin to tell you about. So I'm so sorry. See, I'm so sorry because I get it. I mean, it's I can't, it's the worst feeling in the universe when you see somebody doing something or not doing something
Yep.
when you could take it over and do it in 3 seconds. I mean, it's like, I've been there, done, so, and you're stuck because this is the right place for her to be in. I mean,
Yeah.
believe me, I know you guys have done everything you possibly effing can to get her in the best place that's available to you within a 150-mile radius.
Yep.
I know that. I just know that about you. So, got to remind yourself that this is the facility that you've been, that this is it,
Yeah.
because this is the best. And then you got to let go and let God, which is the hardest thing for me in my life.
Yeah, that's true. And I will share this. This is kind of the funny. So, and what we didn't say was yesterday when was broken because, I say mom's tooth is cracked. It actually was so cracked that the front tooth fell out. Her Parkinson's medicine has really caused severe
It's
damage
ruined
to
her
her
teeth.
teeth. And so when the last time when I speak to her, her cell phone's all over the place, and it's caused such severe damage that she basically her front teeth are gone, and they're cracked, and the decay is so bad that it started to impede her speech, and she's having trouble eating. That tooth, this started in October. And that's why I'm so angry. And that's when I cracked. But I sent Natalie the message because I've been trying to get a hold of the director of nursing for 3 weeks. And, they had that order since December. But the funny part when you talk about your sister is I sent Natalie the message and I said, today's the day I've called this girl. And then I started calling the insurance companies and everything and still trying to work. I sent Natalie a message and I said, if I don't get the answer today, because I'm thinking, do I go to the director of the facility? Do I do that? I said, do I call the ombudsman or is assassination okay? And Natalie says, call the ombudsman. But then she sends me the second message and she said, but I support assassination. And that's what I needed because that's the only way I get through her terrible humor. But I was like, okay, as long as you support it, like she's the one that'll get me out of jail.
Right.
Yeah.
And
We
she'll post your bond, right?
Of course,
So,
man, I got a ton of room on my credit card. I pay it
Yeah.
off every month.
I mean,
I know it.
country. When I skip the country, she's totally okay with losing that $100,000. It's okay.
Fine.
yeah,
That's what
and she really
sisters
means
do.
that. And it's the truth. I mean, because we're in these situations that are really like life threatening. I mean, like we're like at the worst. Like you're at the worst point right now. Like
Yeah.
the stuff that people going on in the world. Like in your world, this is like bad. It's bad.
Yeah.
So
That's a good point. I know that, and this dates us. It's today's February 15th. I know that from the nightly news last night that there was some shootings in Kansas City, that the Russians are putting a nuclear of whatever in the universe, and it can knock out everything. But I'm going to tell you right damn now, like the fact that our mom's teeth is not fixed yet, that trumps it all. And I'm like, you
yes.
want to see somebody get hurt? I'm going to make the nightly news if somebody doesn't get my mom to the damn dentist.
I will take out Putin myself if that is what it takes to get my mom's teeth.
What does it take to get my mom's teeth done? Because here's the thing, she drives us crazy, and we will always make sure she is taken care of.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
and
I remember I had a friend, and maybe this will help a little bit. I had a friend who was just in a similar situation with a dad, whatever, and just like just freaking out because it was just like, 20 phone. And I said, you know what? I said, put the phone down. And we have to trust that all this hard work and energy we put out into the universe, like, let it do it. Like, you've done everything you can.
that's right.
And we have to believe somewhere that all this energy we've given to whatever you believe in is working.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Not just because you believe it's what, but because you've done so much that,
The
you
Lord's
got to
going to be
give it.
like, okay, JJ, I know that you're
JJ dies, she goes up, and they're all standing at the gates, and God says, well, you were enough. And that's what I think we all want to hear is, and I tell JJ that, JJ, you're good enough. You're doing enough, because we always think there's more to do. And we always joke that there was a reason God took our dad first. He just needed to break. And so, so he knew what was coming. And he was like, and he looked, I really feel he looked at my dad and said, Jim, let's just enjoy some singing up here. These girls got it. And we do.
I believe that,
We do.
I,
We
I,
do.
I really do believe that, it's like, I've been told my dad went first because my mom would never leave.
Mm.
So she knew he was on the other side, so yeah, I mean, look, I you know, I know exactly where you're at, and it's so painful, and I'm so sorry. I mean, that's the bottom line of it. I'm so sorry.
Well, we thank
And
you for
it's
that.
funny because you say it, and I'm like, no, it's okay.
You're
I
a
just
good
Yeah,
want to
southerner.
no,
let you know.
Look at me saying thank you. I learned to
yeah,
say
because
thank you a
Thank you.
long time
I'm like, oh
ago.
no, it's okay.
yeah,
It's other
No,
buddies.
it's not
No,
okay.
yeah,
Here's
yeah,
the thing.
yeah,
It's not
yeah.
okay. And the answer is just thank you.
thank
When
you.
somebody would say to me, I'm so sorry your husband has cancer, I would typically say, oh, that's okay. Thank you. And now I'm like, you're right. It sucks. And I appreciate you. I appreciate that.
But it's really, really hard. And I'm going to share one other final thing. So I had brain cancer a year ago, right? So I don't know if you guys knew this, but I did. Yeah, I had
No.
brain cancer. Let's get back. So it's been a, shall we say, poopy year of poster, and there's stuff going, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'm only saying this because I want you to understand that you're not alone. Okay, because okay, so I am working on not feeling bad about the fact that I'm not like back to my old normal. In other words, I feel guilty. Okay. I feel like I'm a failure because I'm not all healed up and I'm not okay already. And that's the God's honest truth. I mean, really honest to you. And I have to work on it. I'm working on therapy. It's like, and people are saying to me, you didn't cause your brain tumor or the fact that you're having MS symptoms. Like, that's not, and that's all off the record. But I'm like, it's not my fault, but I'm failing. I'm ashamed. I feel shame that I'm not,
Yeah.
and that's what we do to ourselves. That's the work. That's the work of being aware of it and saying, and having people come back to us and saying, you didn't do that, or you're doing everything you can.
Yeah.
Like, you got this. Like, just because it's not happening doesn't mean you don't got this.
Yeah.
That's what you need to say to yourself. You know what I mean? That's what I had to say to myself. Because it's like, you know, the results are, we're judging ourselves by our results.
Yeah.
So screwed up. And anyway, I'm just saying, I get it. I get it.
Thank you. Thank you. You know what Natalie and I say all the time? We did this whole podcast thing. This came to us and we were like, you know, we just want other people to, maybe they can hear our story and it will help them. And we laugh and we say this because we wonder if it's not been more of a blessing for us.
It's always been a blessing. It's healed me.
That's what we say. You know, we went out with this mission, and every time I get to talk to somebody, I'm like, well, this is healing me. I hope it helps other people, because Lord knows it's helped me. It's like a therapy session every time. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I needed to hear today. Would I have found this person and learned this had we not started this? And it does. You're like, these are my people, and thank you. I'm gonna write this on my whiteboard. There is something divine inside, because that's what I needed. That was my day. That was my fortune cookie cracked open. That's what they should say inside.
That's wonderful. Yeah, and I believe it is. I believe you know, I mean, giving. This whole giving thing. This is that's the thing about love and giving. It's like, you know, but you know, that's the thing about love and giving. It's like there's magic there, right? It's like you've helped me, like you know what I'm saying. I mean, it's extraordinary, and I think it's what, you know, and I'm struggling to kind of keep this caregiver warrior thing going, because you know, and it's like, this is why I'm doing it.
Yep, this is exactly why you do it.
I'm meeting you, and we're helping each other. We're telling each other stories, and we have a little more peace right now, you know, and that's
it's space to breathe.
It's divine.
It really is. I love it. Susanne, thank you so much for being with us. We absolutely love you. And
I had a wonderful time. Even without my Kleenex, I was good.
Even though her hair looked like shit, it was great.
we both cried today. It's great.
I should have pulled my glasses back. That really does some control.
Oh, it's like having headphones on. Susanne, we love you.
We love you,
talk
honeys.
to you soon.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you so much, honeys, and the best with everything. And if you need anything, let me know. Seriously.
Thank you, Susanne.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.